This episode of The Totally Rad Show is brought to you by AN Hosting, offering premium web hosting since 2001. On today's TRS, we dive deep into James Cameron's cave and check out his new movie, Sanctum.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Totally Rad Show for the week of February 7th. Today is Monday. We are going to be talking about a new cave thriller, really is what it is.
Another one of those.
Yes, it's produced by James Cameron, but he didn't do anything else, right?
He's the executive producer of the
He's
movie.
the executive producer. Sanctum.
And on Tuesday, we're talking about a video game, a Steam PC game released on the Steam platform called Magicka.
Correct.
Also today is my dad's birthday.
Happy birthday!
But on Wednesday is a new game, my friends. We're calling it Radicelli. And if you are a fan of the game from Inglourious Basterds that we've played a number of times, you may really like this game.
Not to be confused with Dan's wintertime food treat that he makes, Radicelli.
Oh, here we go. So Thursday, we're back with comics. Ed Brubaker's Incognito, the first run. They're on the second run of the second story now. We're going to talk about the first story, Incognito.
Yes, and then Friday we wrap it all up the week with Versus.
Correct.
Creating our list of the best movies ever.
Correct. Speaking of best ever, backgrounds.
Yeah, this is cool. This was sent in by Andrew Not Rumik Clanahan, who sent this in inspired by, of course, 2001: A Space Odyssey, but we think it looks a little bit like something you might go down into deeply.
Also, 2001 is one of James Cameron's favorite movies.
It all comes together.
As well as many other filmmakers.
Full circle.
Well, let's see how Sanctum fares.
Today in movies we are talking about Sanctum, which is executive produced by James Cameron. It's not a James Cameron film, though it does certainly have his flavor, as it's an expedition movie. It's about it sort of has a technology scientist protagonism bent.
Protagonism.
You know what I mean? Like
It's in the Three Dizzles.
It's in the Three Dizzles. We saw it in Three Dizzles. It was shot in Three Dizzles.
There were a couple shots.
Also,
it's a lot
3D.
like The Abyss, Souls.
Yeah, it's very much like his own Abyss. This one is centered around, it's inspired by a true story, centered around a group of cave spelunkers or cave divers that go inside this cave and catastrophe strikes and they are trying to survive.
Yeah, I think that's the important point, because it's not just going into a cave and spelunking. That's just the beginning, and then they actually dive in water that's in a cave.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's really more a diving movie, I think, than it is in a spelunking
sort of everything,
movie.
yeah.
It's kind of half and half.
Yeah.
So
A lot of bells and butterflies.
Jeff,
Yeah.
Diving bell.
were you
Sanctumed
a
or-
fan?
Well, here's the thing. I recently saw, I think it was on The Daily Show or Colbert, a guy came on and had just written a book about people who are diving into the deepest caves imaginable, deeper than any human beings have ever gone. New technology has allowed them to dive deeper into caves ever before. And he showed some pictures like, there's no light, and people go crazy, and it's very dangerous because you go for so long with not even the darkest place we can go on the top of the earth is like there. It's this complete absence of light. And they showed a photo of this guy like nestled in this tiny little crevice sleeping. And it was the most like haunting image I've ever seen, because I'm a little claustrophobic when it comes right down to it. And so I was excited about this being the premise of this movie, right? Unfortunately, that picture is more exciting and interesting than this movie ever is. Really what this movie is Poseidon, or any of those other people in peril films.
Survival.
Yeah, it's people in peril. Almost a disaster flick, if the disaster is sort of we went to the disaster instead of it coming to us. And unfortunately, it's got the same two-dimensional characters that you would find in a movie like Poseidon, and it's got the same kind of flimsy plot, and I will give it credit that as we get into the the interesting bits when the stuff starts happening, there was some fun moments. There were some interesting, like, what would I do in that situation kind of feelings. But the real great stuff of this movie would have been feeling the trueness of the based on the true story and feeling like, oh my God, there really is this giant hole in the ground. And unfortunately, all that setup stuff is all green screen and feels so fake and unrealistic. When they finally get on sets toward the middle and end of the movie and you really feel like they actually are scuba diving and it's not as green screeny, there's some fun to it, but overall it's a pretty dumb movie and I didn't enjoy it very much.
Yeah, as a card-carrying claustrophobic, that I was excited to get. It was a little bit like buried for me. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this one. But yeah, I mean, it starts out as a very cheesy, bad movie. Period. The beginning, the acting, you know, the lines that are said. I mean, it starts out as a just plain bad movie. It kind of gets into a sort of okay disaster movie towards the sort of middle and end, and inevitably there is some sort of like, oh, and oh no, that's a hole, oh, you know what I mean, moments.
Shouldn't have done that.
Oh boy, it's and they definitely got some of the visceral claustrophobic nature of cave diving. But I think, you know, just the beginning, and then it sort of leads you to this path. I thought the father-son relationship was sort of the only relationship that I felt was able to build, even though it only started building when the sort of S hit the F, whereas before it just seems so cliche, classic, oh, punky kid, doesn't like his dad, and his dad's a gruff military guy maybe in any other movie, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But by the end, I was connected emotionally with those two characters, but every other character, I was like, I don't know, what is happening? You know what I mean? So I think inevitably, didn't really have all that great a time. The 3D was okay, but why was it in 3D? You know?
3D didn't. I didn't think.
I mean, it was like, why?
Added anything special. I mean, I think if you see 127 hours,
yes,
or
much better.
Well, yes, but I'm saying I think shot for shot, the 3D in this movie didn't. I was not more immersed in this film than I was in 127 hours, or
which wasn't in 3D.
Which was not in 3D,
right.
or another movie I was thinking of recently. I think you must watch The Descent, which we talked about in our media mashup segment, because that
5 girls in a hole.
That
I'd love it to be vice versa. Heyo.
That really takes advantage of the haunting imagery that you saw on The Daily Show. That is what The Descent is about. But this movie felt very much like an early 90s film to me. There was no edginess. It was not postmodern in any way. It was very straightforward. It reminds me of other expedition movies like K2 or Vertical Limit, or it's just very, very antiseptic.
Vertical Limit is a good analogous movie.
Yeah. and none. It didn't earn. And there was some pretty. You know that wonderful scene in The Abyss between Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And and they've got to get her out of the. She's got no oxygen. They got to get. There's a million scenes in this movie that are like that, but they are rushed into and rushed out of. They never actually like.
Land.
Yeah, they never land, and I mean that's something to do with the first half of the movie. The setup it's not hidden.
All exposition.
It's not disguised in any moment or scene. It's just like set up.
Here are facts about spelunking and diving.
The father-son story, which is the kind of story I love most in life, is very overt and not at all introspective in any way. So I really didn't like Sanctum.
Neither did I.
I don't think
very much. And it's funny you liken it to Poseidon, which is like, but you know, the Poseidon Adventure is a great film.
Right.
Yeah.
The Poseidon is like, yes, exactly, and that's what this is. This is almost. It's weird because it feels like someone that would copy James Cameron.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
It's not like
Which is why I think that they might have shot a lot of this actually physically on location, because I think that's the only thing I can imagine that would get James Cameron excited enough to sort of
Really?
be
None of it
involved.
felt like that.
Well, when they were in the caves, a lot of it
to
felt
me.
like that.
I saw
like
there was
sets
definitely
to me.
some green screen. There definitely was some set
Yeah.
stuff, but there was also a considerable amount that did feel legit. And I think, I don't know if the director is his dive buddy or the writers were his dive buddies, but
Probably.
something along there. Interestingly though, it is shot, it does have a lot of Cameron-esque Steadicam work that, so I don't know if he handled those moments or if there's simpatico there, but
Yeah, I think that I agree with you guys. The 3D didn't add much, and it felt, in fact, the beginning where we get a lot of the green screen moments, the 3D actually made it look even more
Yeah,
false.
it really exacerbated the sort of like,
Yeah.
that helicopter doesn't exist, does it?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And just this sort of like, yeah. And then Ewan Griffith, I think it's Ewan Griffith.
Ian
right?
Griffith.
Johan Griffith.
I think
Mr.
it's
Fantastic.
Ewan Griffith is how it's pronounced, possibly.
Really?
I believe so.
Definitely
yeah.
spelled with a D, but you might be right that it's all effed up. and,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
but either way, Mr. Fantastic.
Or appropriate to his culture.
Or Horatio Hornblower if you're a British television person.
Not good.
Not good. Beginning of the movie too.
Not good.
Really
in
not
anything
good.
I've ever seen him in.
A couple-
Maybe he's being miscast.
Well, he was good in Arthur, I
Right.
thought.
I have a feeling in Fantastic
Yeah,
Four
I think
and
he was
this,
miscast.
I think he's
halfway
like,
through, I was like, I would never cast him as an American.
Yeah.
I would easily cast him as in
He's
anything
cheesy.
else.
He's cheesy in these roles.
He was cheesy in these
Yeah.
roles, yeah.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Not a good movie. Sorry,
Good movie.
folks.
Sorry, Sanctum. Don't enter it.
All right, everybody, stick around for this day in rad history, but first we want to thank our sponsors. AN Hosting has been providing simple and affordable web hosting since 2001, very close to when the web hosting business started. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Now, there are exclusive discounts, 3 months for free for TRS viewers. So,
What?
Yeah, 3 months free web hosting for TRS viewers, free domains, and $100 search engine credit, good for Google or Yahoo.
What?
When you sign up. There's 24/7 US-based phone chat and email support, which is awesome. Over 100 popular scripts like Drupal, WordPress, you can install, one click, easy breezy. So visit www.anhosting.com/TRS. Get your 3 free months of web hosting.
What?
Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. Speaking of amazing stuff, we got great stuff for you tomorrow. We will see you then.
Woohoo.
Coming up on tomorrow's show, we review the game Magicka.
So today is February 7th, and on this day, way back in 1935, Monopoly was invented. Monopoly.
Let me ask you guys a
That's
question.
why.
When you play Monopoly,
Yes?
or when you played it when you were a kid, not the greatest board game by any stretch, but everyone has played it. When you played it, did you do the taxes and put the money on free parking, and then you would land on free parking and you get the tax money?
Yes, which I've been told by people who are in the know of playing that screws the game. That's why there are 5-hour games.
That's why, because the whole point of taxes is to remove that money from the game, and when you put it back into the economy, it just lengthens the game.
Amazing. Well, that was sent
those
in by
people-
Pat
those people that you were
Beast.
talking
It was
to.
also 1935. This is why the street names are what they are. Like that's why it's got the guy with the top hat and the car and the like.
Because they just looked out their window and drew what they saw.
Yeah. Thimbles.